pursuing that. Cornelius eagerly built relationships. As we're camped out in this chapter, what did he do? He called in friends and relatives to be included. He invited people that he had relationships with to be included in what God was going to do. The result was a ready and waiting group, ready to hear the good news about Jesus when Peter arrived. And why did Peter have a voice with these people? Because Cornelius had a voice with these people. Because of Cornelius' relationship with these people, Peter was able to have a voice with them. See, it's not always about what God's going to do through us directly either. It's what he can do through our relationship with somebody, because somebody else that has a voice into our lives will maybe get a voice into their life. That takes a little pressure off, doesn't it? Look for ready people. Look for people who are ready to hear something in their lives, who need to hear something in their lives, who are asking spiritual questions, who are facing significant issues in their life. Life transformation is the work of God. And we need to prayerfully look for where he is already working and join him in that work. God is already working to draw people to himself. Through the challenges and heartaches in life, he opens opportunities for people to recognize that they can't face it alone, that they need something that they don't know about. They need someone they don't know. It is not being a vulture to swoop into the trials in people's lives and show them hope. It is being a friend. Funeral services are often a place where the gospel is easily received by people who wouldn't even walk into a church. Let alone walk into a church and figure God's going to talk through somebody. Are we vultures to preach the gospel at a funeral? We're friends. We're the best friend they've ever had to show them the hope of Jesus Christ, especially when they're in a place of hopelessness. Build relations of impact. You don't always know that there'll be a relationship of impact. Build a relationship that can be an impact when trials hit the lives of people that you're in relationships with. Expect more. Build relationships of impact. When we make the most of opportunities, God does even greater things. So thirdly, we need to remove obstacles and barriers. Let's look at verse 28. This is great. Peter's words. He said to them, "You are well aware that it's against our law for a Jew to associate with a Gentile or visit him." Can't even associate with them, let alone go to their house. "But God has shown me that I should not call any man impure or unclean." Peter removed a barrier. That's why he went there. He said, "So when I was called, I came right away with no reservations." This is a man-imposed barrier. It's a law-imposed barrier. And Peter said, as Paul said so many times, we're not under law. Jesus is the fulfillment of the law. It's by his grace that we're saved, and his grace is for all people. Do not call, God said to Peter in his vision, do not call something unclean that I have made clean. How did it get made clean? Through Jesus Christ's blood on the cross for the sins of all mankind. Those people are now acceptable to God's family. That's us, folks, Gentiles. We were made acceptable by the sacrifice of Christ on the cross for all people. The barriers removed. Not just the barrier between man and God, but the barrier between God's people and all people that can now become God's people. He removed a barrier. He removed an obstacle. He stepped around it and said, no more will people be prevented from coming to God because of our way of doing things. Building relationships of impact will require intentional effort to remove barriers. In our day and age, it is a matter of not Jewish and religious law so much as it is stigmas and cultural norms or misperceptions or people's past mistakes. Oh man, what they've been into. Wow. Can they ever change? That's a barrier for us. We got to get that out of our head. We were going to hell before God got into us. By the way, we need to remind ourselves of that every day. Yes, we were bad enough we were going to hell without Jesus. So we were just as bad as them because we were going to the same place. It's just that what they might be doing seems a lot more horrendous to us. It's just as far removed from God's perfection as we were. It's just manifested differently. The stereotypes, the stigmas, the cultural norms that are a part of who people are and how they're living their lives, those are barriers for us that we need to cross and build bridges over in our own hearts and minds, or we're not going to be able to love them. We can't love the sinner and hate the sin if we don't separate the two. What barriers can help you if you remove them to reach someone? What barriers about you, what barriers about us can we remove to help someone see Jesus? What about us as Christians is a stumbling block for those who don't know the Lord to seek His face? What about us might be a barrier that hinders us growing closer to other people so that they can grow closer to Jesus? For many, and for much of what we see in the media, the sanctimonious attitude that Christians can have sometimes, that we are better than somebody else because we know Jesus. We're not in and of ourselves. The only thing better is Jesus in us. That we are on a level above some people because we've been saved. That we're more holy, when the Bible clearly tells us that we're clothed in the holiness of Christ. Being holy is to be set apart for His purposes. What good does it do us to be set apart for God's purposes when we don't pursue doing what He asks because we feel limited? Because we don't expect more, because we don't build relationships of impact, because we don't remove barriers and obstacles, because we don't believe he can do something through us in spite of us.